We just want to stay active and non-dead. It's not just like a north, south, west, east thing. It's got better targeting. It's got 3D targeting, and it can just carve through things. Because every time we brought up myths and magic, right, we said like, oh yeah, editors and constraints, and when I gave that talk 9 years ago or whatever, and we have the new technology, the new branching technology. So might as well use it. But I'd like to. I have an email someone sent me years ago that just a lot of stuff about ink, and I've thought about ink a bit. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with. And this led to this whole giant discussion about cage wagons.
And that's it. We're live. We've made it back with the least technical difficulties I've had in one of these in I don't know how long. So I'm excited. How are you today?
Doing great. I'm moving tomorrow. That's exciting.
I
Um,
mean, moving is terrifying and exciting.
yeah, it's not too far away, so it should be okay. But yeah, it's been a year or so since I last moved, and so we're doing it again. It's should be great fun.
So it's been a good chunk of time since we last did one of these where we, got to sit down and talk about the state of the game and just Dwarf Fortress in general. So one of the things that's really kind of stood out to me about the past like year of development is just the consistency and frequency of the routine patches. So I guess my kind of first real little topic here is what is kind of your goal with the routine patches? Is it just to kind of keep things covered up? Is it to address immediate concerns, or do you have like a checklist of things that are small that you can piecemeal out?
No, I mean we just want to stay active and non-dead. It's like and we have the new technology, the new branching technology, so might as well use it. But I'd like to fix, I mean, because we always used to fix old bugs for a little bit after, disappearing for 26 months, and never as long as people wanted, but we would do that. And now that we have the power to be doing that while we're doing bigger things, um it's yeah it's just it seems good to use. So we want to hot fix things, obviously, which we've had to do quite a bit lately. We'd also just like to fix the old things, and we'd also like to explore the new wild and shiny graphical universe in which we find ourselves, so that we can just throw out things like the shiny forgotten beasts, the upcoming die stuff, just with routine patches as well. Um, and then there's like whatever Lua counts as too, because we got that branch as well, right? That's on beta now, and we want to switch that over when we can. And that will have the cadence of a routine patch in a way, but it's bigger than that. Um, and then there's still just the siege stuff lurking in the background, which I've been able to work on a bit, but of course, not as much as I would have liked, since it was announced, because I was sick in May. That kind of took a chunk out of my siege time. That was going to be a nice siegey time, but alas.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
when the body's under siege, it's kind of hard to be at work constantly. So, um, glad you're feeling better regardless. Like, getting sick is not fun. But I wanted to talk about the routine patches because I've been really enjoying them. I think like there's kind of a sentiment that I've seen kind of come and go as time has gone on while covering the game as intensely as I do, which is the game's very quiet. It's been a long time since we've seen anything, and then it kind of eventually bubbles back up to, oh, the game's super active. And I think that like if the goal is to just simply make things seem active, I think you're achieving that. And also just the frequency of small fixes is lovely.
yeah, no, it's good not to go for more than 2 years with some horrifying thing that shouldn't happen anymore, because someone will bother me and say like, hey, by the way, XYZ, and then we can be like, oh, okay, we can get that in the next patch, rather than having some horrifying thing going on while we all pass through a whole stage of life waiting for it to be fixed.
Yeah.
Although really, yeah, I mean, there's enough things out there that I guess where that's still going to happen. Um, but we'll try to have it happen less.
I mean, when it comes to stuff like, you know, being the same age as a child and then finally getting fixed, or I mean, fixed is I guess a relative term. I think it's more improved. The Mark Dwarves update has definitely made waves. and I've seen, at least from my gameplay experience, them acting completely differently and like devastatingly more effective. So can we talk a little bit about the Marksdwarf's changes and like I know some of them are things coming back from older versions, like the menu that allows you to assign ammunition and food and drink, but like the actual behaviors of the dwarves are pretty different now.
We didn't do as much as we would have liked. Like their scanning range for fortifications is still quite small. But yeah, yeah, and we want them to do things eventually like if you really need an ammunition, then you just pick it up if it's right next to you and shoot it. Who cares who it belongs to? Stuff like that. But that of course has like knock-on effects that last all the way um through the remainder of the fort if someone's holding the wrong object and stuff. So we just cut our losses and got that part out. And it's yeah, it's good. It's good. I like where it ended up, even if I always feel like that there's more to do, of course.
So, how do you feel about the current state of them? I mean, like that kind of final statement that you had there kind of makes it feel like there's still more to do when it comes to Mark's dwarves. So, like, at least from the player perspective, it's like a night and day difference, right? They are a lot easier to manage and function in kind of fights, and to me, it's like just kind of a tease of the bigger picture of things to come because I've now suddenly seen people saying they're too strong now. And it's actually curious to hear you say that like there's more things that you want to do to improve them at the very least in fortress mode.
Yeah, and logistically too, like the I don't like that you can still only place one barracks effectively that can hold the bolts, um and so you can't like have a large Marksdorf's squad with reliable caches of bolts in like a bunch of different places. And we were trying to set that up as well, to have an interface for that, but it was too fiddly. So we need to do a thinking through that again to make it not as fiddly. So that's why we kind of, I mean, I was disappointed to fall back to basically what was the old menu. That was not the plan. The plan was to do a kind of barracks based menu so that you could position little caches wherever you wanted, but we also couldn't just couldn't have that be super fiddly. And hunters too, they're just buried in a like a a standing orders sub menu or something, right? So yeah, no, there's a lot to do there, but yeah, no, I agree. Like headshots and things are like way more frequent now because they're actually aiming for the head, and if they're good at it, they can hit it. So like things like defense against ranged weapons also needs some thinking through, things like cover being able to do that more responsibly and dashing forward, um and also like shields, because shields, I mean, they're very effective against like dragon fire and with ranged weapons as well. They get kind of like just a blanket bonus. That kind of thing needs to be rethought. That's probably going to happen with the melee update instead, um, which is not a thing except being a bullet point on the siege stuff. So that's just going to happen sometime during the siege stuff, whether it happens early or as we're kind of finishing up the big chunks, that we drop in a non-routine way, is remains to be seen. But yeah, lots of things we want to do there that could also have ranged effects.
The biggest takeaway I have from the additions made to Mark's dwarves is it's just a kind of a tease of what we are going to see in the near future, which really kind of brings me to the next subject here of like how is the Siege update coming along? Like, what's the process been like for designing new features? I mean, we know that your head is full of ideas, but like, we've had things mentioned, but we don't really know what the actual granular changes are going to be. So, like, something that keeps coming up is enemies building and digging. Are they going to just like tunnel down to like the first cavern layer and attack us? Like, what should we expect?
Yeah, no, I don't think that yeah, they're going to have to interact with your fortress as it stands first, just because like cheesy digging invaders that like they could, because they could just strip mine the map, right? And it's just dumb. Yeah, you could go out and kill them or something. But yeah, no, they could just start at the top left and just kind of do the whole thing in a big pyramid of ramps. Um, that would just be obnoxious.
They just show up and start
Uh,
playing Minecraft.
yeah, it's just hard to deal with, right? To have that. So it has to feel more earned than that. So they need to suffer some losses and then try and overcome what's in their face rather than just doing this kind of like dig straight down from the corner or whatever. So they're going to have like right now the siegers, like the existing siegers, have kind of a infinite knowledge of where every dwarfen building is, and they use that to just path and just slaughter everybody. So that is going to change. I've got this structure now that's like their siege plan is what it's called, I think, but it's also kind of like what they know, what they've seen, and so um, they can interact with that. There's going to still be some cheaty stuff in the sense of knowledge because player chaff is like super effective in these situations where you could just have all kinds of decoy depots and decoy other things that make then you're just kind of making this weird amusement park that would be seen through, I think, by realistic invaders. So I've got some experimental ideas with that, just to because I don't want them to feel like they know too much, but I don't want it to be again like because the current situation is that it's too cheesy, because you can just put up a wall or whatever, or even less to avoid sieges entirely. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with. I kind of want it to feel like they're sort of flooding forward and they're attempting a dig at a spot that you'd kind of understand so that you can kind of marshal your next wave of defenses. Remains to be seen how that's going to play out.
Right. So like when you say you've got some like prototyped ideas, because you mentioned they come in with like a siege plan. How are they going to be acquiring that plan? I know that right now there's like spies and things that can spot traps, but like do you have any idea what the player should be looking out for to try and stop them from being able to make a plan, or is that something they're just going to have upon arrival?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't, like, it's not like you can stop them from making a plan because the fortress, if the player has been doing things, then there's going to be something that's been dug. There's going to be something that's been built, a door, a wall, something that is legitimately like visible to someone who's coming by to check the place out. Now,
Hmm.
there is a whole like school of dwarfdom where maybe you want to be hidden or something like that,
Sure.
with behind natural walls, and or you're like digging inside of a volcano or something and it would be hard for them to find the entrance because you've only put it on the inside of a volcano or something like that, and everyone is dead that set that up and now you're fine. That's fine. I mean, they will just lose in those circumstances perhaps. I don't have much of a problem with that. The other thing for them to do would be just to start digging, like we heard the dwarves come from here, or this is where the dwarves come from that have like attacked and taken over several of our villages. And so we are going to be more enthusiastic about our attempt to destroy this place, right?
That's exciting.
So then they will just start, I think at some point they have to just start digging or something, whatever they've got. But I want them, if you've got an entrance, I don't want them to just go way far away and be like, ah, ha, ha, I'm digging a secret tunnel down to the second level instead. There's something cool about that in terms of like, infiltrators or something like that feels like an actual sapping operation or something. But mostly we just want them to like, try you as you stand.
So when you say like people will come by and will have seen your fortress, you're referring to like visitors and stuff, right?
No, in that particular case, that would be the case too, which is how they get their trap information. I'm talking about the squads when they enter the
Right.
map
Sure.
and just hanging out there, and then no longer doing like, I'm 150 humans and here we go, charging all the same. They basically are all charging the nearest dwarf, right, or something, and they just funnel in and get chummed by whatever's hanging out there, or they just start murdering people and animals and whatever one at a time. Um, that is no longer what we generally want to have happen. So the squads will come
Sure.
in like the humans used to make those little campfires. That was kind of an attempt to make it feel like we're now going to actually have it be where they stop, they're at the edges, they send forth group one, the people that are here to test where is the entrance, unless it's obvious or something. I mean, if there is like a giant populated depot or something out front, then maybe they will just go nuts. But if there isn't, then they can send a squad forward, see what happens, and then they would get more information based on what those people have seen, because they would be able to see buildings and dwarves and things, and see constructed walls, see staircases, that kind of thing, and then mark those locations down, and then see what your losses were. If like the entire squad was killed, then by say traps, then they could, if they have the capability, send in the engineers or whatever,
Interesting.
and see if all the engineers get killed by arrows, then we're at the next stage where you're like, okay, do I try and commit to something more brazen in the front, or do I try and come up with one of the Otterball ideas of digging around the side, and etc. Or do I just give up because I've lost 50% of my people or whatever? That is something like we're just gonna have to see if we can get a feel there, and then we'll be in a little like this kind of arms race with the players a bit, I imagine. Not to win it because people are always going to do better than whatever we do, but just so that as we're improving that arms race with the veteran players a little bit, then the new player experience, and the kind of more casual player experience, in the sense of a casual Dwarf Fortress player, um, is just much improved, right? It's just like, oh, this feels pretty cool. That's where we want to end
Yeah.
up.
No, totally. I mean, I'm kind of very much looking forward to these changes. Like the thing that has me the most excited is the like you just don't want to be mean to the player. You just want to challenge us with having to think about new things, which I'm all for. So that kind of leads into the next thing of like what is our options going to be? I mean, I know that you've talked about some sort of repeating bolt firing thing and catapults and ballista changes.
Yeah,
So what's being
yeah.
planned there?
Yeah, so so we have that all drawn up, which is nice. It's nice to have things drawn. The artists are way ahead of me as usual. And so that's just going to be something where if you have a place where you'd like to amplify the number of bolts that are coming down and that's going to be a good place to do it, then you don't need to rely on having 10 dwarves up there. You can have a couple of these emplacements, and it'll have much the same effect, and it'll just kind of dump bolts down on the people that come by, and that's good. And yeah, just a little dwarf sitting there rotating around a one of these bolt thrower critters, and that's one good thing. The ballista will be better if it can fire. It's not just like a north, south, west, east thing. It's got better targeting. It's got 3D targeting, and it can just carve through things in much the same way as it does. I think that still holds up, as long as they can get to it quickly. The catapult, I feel like, is just because in a 3D environment where people move as fast as they do, the catapult is basically a shitty weapon. I think it's unless they're making siege emplacements where they sit for longer, like those people camping on the edge of the map, then it starts to have more meaning, to be able to kind of launch a rock or something into that area, or not just a rock, and that's where we kind of entering into some other thoughts about what you can put in a catapult.
Like a beehive.
Yeah, people want to put live cows in catapults, and our our philosophy here is like the people want to do that, and that sounds okay to me. It might be something that's a little weird to do, but I think it's kind of it's something that we can do because of how the game is um, is set up, that items and creatures and stuff as projectiles are something the game already understands. So having the ability to do that's not a big lift, and so it's something that we're definitely is just front and center in terms of what we want to get out of siege weapons. Um, so those are the ideas we had. We kind of were looking at like siege hooks and other weird things that people have used to dismantle walls and things that they might use on you and that kind of thing. That stuff like that's all kind of backburnered a bit because we just want to get through their main attacker stuff before we get too fiddly
Yeah.
with things like that. And we'll see where we're at. I mean, this is all good. This is all going to be a process of more than one release. And I think sort of the core bit um, is going to be the digging, rewalling, that kind of the central thing about really breaking through a fortress and being able to defend against that better will probably be one of the later things to come through as we're giving you things like I mean I see definitely it's possible that we could have the rework for siege weapons, damaged item type graphics, perhaps cage trap rewrites, which we've talked about, or betterment. Um, those things coming before kind of a core behavior thing while we're working on that. But that remains to be seen. And then how long we're spending on this versus changing gears over to like the map updates and cabin stuff. Also a question, but we have lots of things we want to get done before we switch gears. While at the same time, yeah, things like the Forgotten Beast graphics or the dies I mentioned, they're also kind of the type of thing that's going to be happening while we do this, just to have some life and
Yeah.
liveliness as we go.
I do kind of have a question regarding graphics and such, especially like because you said that the artists are always ahead of you. And there's something that I always find a little bit funny in the premium graphics, which is there's blood everywhere all over the floors, but there's also blood on the walls, but that's not represented in any way. And because the siege update is going to come with, a lot of violence, are we going to see blood contaminants on walls reappear at some point?
It's not a bad idea because it's nice to have the whole nice slick tunnel um
Just the
you
walls
know
painted red.
when they yeah, like if you do a minecart shotgun or something, like you want to see the whole thing go, right? Go like if it's trolls, you want to see it like all blue, right? Or cyan or whatever color we've got for trolls these days. And that's a legitimate thing, and it's not something where the artists are ahead of me. I think that's something that needs to be yeah, yeah, would be communicated to them. It's not a bad suggestion at all. I do like the lists of things that were in the old version that haven't been brought back, especially a lot of stuff in Legends mode. Like those are written down, but certain things like Bloody Walls are sitting in some giant file somewhere, but yeah, they're kind of half forgotten. So I really don't mind these kind of reminders about because I really do want to get, and that this goes for like keyboard menus and stuff too. Just I want to get a parity with what we already had. That I'd like that to happen for sure.
Certainly. Um, so I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on cage traps because I know many people haven't dug too deeply into your posts and haven't seen exactly what's going to be changing with traps.
Yeah, and this is still, I mean, one of the nice things about, spending some more months on um the Siege update uh, is that the thoughts on this are still evolving a bit. So we had like our kind of whatchamacallit, the sort of main siege notes on cave traps was to change their behavior a bit, because right now, like the cage trap is sort of the easy mode thing, right? You put except for against very particular opponents, but you just put down 100 cage traps and then you don't have to worry about anything at all. Like they'll just fill up with creatures, which is cool, right? Because you can then release those creatures into a pit or something like that, and do as you please with them. It's part of the game. But as it relates to siegers in particular, and also, I mean, but also perhaps just cavern wildlife and stuff, we do want to make that a little bit harder to do. That it's not just like a fire and forget one little thing. So whether that's setting up like a bit more of a delay with the traps or something. It's tricky. Like if you had to connect them to pressure plates and have them drop in a different tile, that's very tricky because they'd be so unreliable. But that's kind of the thing we're thinking about a little bit. But then also large cage traps is the kind of the biggest thing. That the cages are just a really weird thing right now, right? You can fit infinite things in them, and they kind of go half into stasis. And if they made a bit more sense, both in terms of size and in terms of materials, then that would be great. Now, that does that mean turning a dragon cage into like a 3x3 adamantine building or something? Maybe. Maybe that's what you have to do to because it doesn't make sense. They can just melt their way out of anything, right? But also just large creatures in steel cages and stuff like that instead of like I mean, a wooden cage might make sense for some of the large creatures.
Mhm.
That's something with it we're flexible about. But then you'd have there's a lot of things that come out of that, which is where we have kind of thought about this, and we have the artists have worked on this a bit. Is if you have a large cage trap that's more like a building than an item, because we don't have any really big items anymore, and never really did, aside from ballista bolts. Um, like, then if that's a building, you still want people to create zoos and stuff, right? But you don't want to take, just, oh, you were gonna guide the wild dragon up to your zoo that's like 100 floors down or whatever. Um, and this led to this whole giant discussion about cage wagons, um, which I think is very entertaining if we can get it to work,
Like a
like
wheelbarrow, or
having
like bring out your
well
dead
well
guy?
yeah, like bigger, yeah, bigger, like a
Huh.
big 3x3 wagon with a cage on it, and you can put your prisoners in it, or you can put like the big dragon in it, and it actually has to move kind of like a wagon to the location where you want to build your zoo or something, and then you can install that there without getting in danger. Um,
Oh
it's
man.
kind of it's kind of tangentially related to sieges, but it's also because cage traps are such a big part of defenses. This is kind of where our brains were going with this stuff, and yeah, I think that's just pretty cool. I think it might have been Jacob that Jacob perhaps suggested the wagon idea. I'm trying to remember. So yeah, no, artists definitely having and then provided some pictures and stuff. I think and it reminded me of like the quest at the beginning of Dragon's Dogma, where you take the Hydra's head on the wagon and kind of move it through a mountain pass or whatever, while you're being attacked by like bird monsters that want to eat it or something. Um, that yeah, so I think it's entertaining to move big things around. And then we have all of our other multi-tile kind of trap notes. I don't know if it's wise to get into that as a kind of core siege update thing, because we'd probably get trapped. So we're trying to stay self-contained there with the cage update, because it's already pretty interesting sounding. but we have all those notes too, and just because it's, I mean, it's like right now weapon traps. You just throw a bunch of things there. They do occasionally get jammed, which is kind of the only way that they're sort of mitigated. But it would be entertaining if they and the stonefall traps and stuff had to be more elaborate with more pieces. Um, and that's still on the table ultimately, I think.
Wow. I I'm just envisioning like I think it's Command and Conquer when you like build the little trucks and then they drive to a location and then fold out into a building for some reason. But
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, how does the installation process work?
yeah, that wow. Okay. That's not a direction I was expecting in the slightest. That's fascinating. Curious to see what manifests out of that. So
Yeah, yeah, same here.
the next thing that I saw a lot in my submitted questions from users, which that's kind of what this intro section is just me kind of condensing stuff into topics, is the underground siegers. I mean, currently they're not in the game. They were in the game. They were kind of a problem when they were in the game. Are those going to be making a return in any way, or are they going to be reworked? What's the plan there?
So, yeah, this is kind of one of these situations where we have two masters, and I think ultimately they'll probably be a tad disappointing. We want to bring them back. We want them not to gum up your saves with 5,000 people holding blowguns down in the bottom layers or whatever. We want them to just be nice little fun things that attack, but we don't want to get bogged down in their details because of the underground map rewrite. It's just going to change that situation too much. So it'd be a bit self-defeating to get super into that. But we do want the underground to be used rather than everything coming from the top. But that's hard. Like because like goblin armies, for instance, they actually move on the map, as you know, right? And so the underground movement code is all really messed up, and it was one of the things that was going to be fixed up with the underground map changes because those maps would be a lot better understood by the game. Like what movement means there, what it means in adventure mode to be traveling there, what it means for all these armies to be moving around down there, what the terrain's like, what kind of hazards there are, and all that kind of thing, just as a real sort of role-playing game type environment that's connected. And then as you explore down there, you'd be hitting all kinds of things that are interesting as dwarves, I mean, too, just as you dig down. And then the hazards that you get and the things that attack you would make sense as being belonging to that place a little better than they do now. Um, and that also includes goblins, etc., being able to travel and attack from those locations properly, and also flee that way as well properly, rather than like trying to run up through the fortress and then running up the surface when it doesn't make sense, or the other way around when it doesn't make sense. Like having, I mean, sometimes it would make sense just because they want to get away and they don't care how they get out, but sometimes they deliberately go like the wrong long way or whatever. So making like we can't make sense of that without the big rewrite. And by big rewrite, I don't mean as big as it was going to be when it was the map rewrite, but it's still a, at some point there's rewriting that is done that involves maps. Um, that is to say, in a more targeted way. And so yeah, so that's why the underground Sif stuff I think may be something like that, like the reptile people and stuff may ultimately be one of the things that's not emphasized.
Sure. I know that the underground discussion also kind of loops in the underground roads and such, so I presume that's kind of lumped into all that as well. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The last kind of big note I have here in regards to siege stuff is those temple defenses that were mentioned once. Is there any kind of prototyping that's been done there? Do we have anything that we should look forward to, or is this something that's maybe further out still?
It's a bit further out. It's like the way we're thinking about it is as well, it's kind of double pronged, triple pronged as respecting the subgroups of your fortress more, first of all, because you have religions, you have temples, and you If you disrespect them, then this won't be available to you, of course. And so you'd have to think about that. Uh, and then the other thing is that since we are committing to some more robust magic and myth type stuff through this process in terms of your attackers, um, that is where it starts to be in danger, kind of like we were talking about the random digging of just turning into to sort of unfair cheese fest sometimes, depending on how their powers are used. So there's going to be a bit of back and forth there. I mean, one of the ones, of course, you worry about is stuff like teleport, right? If like an enemy sorcerer can just kind of gate through them and ten people into the guts of your fortress without any and they get to go where they want and don't have there's nothing you can do about it. Then the game's like, why did I set up all of this crap, right? It's just kind of stupid. Unless there are mitigating things that to do there. And that's kind of where the because we want those things, right? It's ultimately it's like a fantasy game that should accommodate, not must accommodate, but should accommodate all kinds of like, these are the powers that people expect people to have. And they should have balanced costs and all that kind of thing, sure, but they can do this, right? This is something that is like yes, I can teleport my group inside of your fortress and just start murdering people. But because that's a thing, then that means that I get to defend against that. And so that's where we're at. We're still thinking of it that way, um, and thinking of things that relate to the religions there, relate to can you do this stuff purely magically in a non-religious sense? That is going to depend on how the sorcerers end up working, whether or not that any of that's learnable. Those kind of things are sitting around to do, and we should start getting into that. But yeah, nothing yet where I can just say yes, these are the six things that are going in the game.
It feels like I've gone through several eras of talking to you on these streams where initially it was just scroll bars and UI, scroll bars and UI, scroll bars and UI, and a lot of questions about myths and magic. And now it feels like we've made it back to where we were before all of that, where normal development is up and running again, which is genuinely exciting because we get to see you excited for development again, and we also get to see new cool things coming down the pipe. Um, so my next question is similar subject, but a little bit different, which is like Lua is in beta, and I saw a comment earlier today, which was Lua kind of seems like Myths and Magic in disguise, or the big wait for Myths and Magic in disguise. How is Lua affecting the development for you right now, and where do you see it going in the future?
So yeah, that person's correct. I'm not sure if it's in disguise because we probably mentioned this at some point. That the reason we started Lua was so that I could do myths and magic the way I want to. That that's and also have it be something that because every time we brought up myths and magic, right, we said like, oh yeah, editors and constraints, and when I gave that talk 9 years ago or whatever, it was like, here are the constraints. You can put this in your text files. You can put these constraints and doing just a regular TXT format for that is something that will work. Like right now, the you can still edit creatures the same way. You don't have to learn Lua to mod the game, but this is essentially a way of just open sourcing some of that stuff. I mean, the Forgotten Beast generation is now essentially an open source thing, and the I wanted to start the actual myth stuff at that point as well, so that I wouldn't just be building up another um, kind of hidden generator. That is still kind of stuff that Putnam has been working on. She's got that running on beta with a lot. I mean, it's basically ready to go. There, we're just doing last minute fixes and stuff, and uh, so I have not engaged with it though, right? I haven't sat down and written a thing in it. All of that's been Putnam. So for me, that's gonna be I think starting with this sorcerer stuff. It's kind of one of my challenges is to get myself up to speed on that, so that I can start putting some things in and see what happens. And then that'll cause more powers, of course, to come online, in terms of what modders can do. Like things that you can't mod now will slowly become moddable, and there'll be more things you can do. People, of course, once you get the scripting language up with enough things, will start doing wild stuff that's never going to be in vanilla, right? So that, and I mean that's always already true with mods as they stand, and that's just going to become very, very different and larger. So yeah, but this is the idea, yeah, and it also, things that were kind of filling me with dread in terms of like making better spells and stuff, and how spells work, in my own like interactions system in the TXTs that has targeting and choosing effects and stuff, but no ability to do like steps. Um, all of that comes for free, with the scripting language, and it means I don't have to write some crappy scripting language that wouldn't be nearly as powerful. So yeah, I mean that's what it is.
That's Lua and that kind of scripting is way beyond me. I'm not a programmer in the slightest. I know a couple Linux commands, but that's about it. So it's on one hand completely past my realm of knowledge, but at the same time also very exciting. Any kind of opening up of like or exposing of parts of the game so that the community can poke it and change it to their heart's content is exciting because as you said, we're never going to have a Warhammer 40,000 bolt gun in Dwarf Fortress, but somebody's done it already. So
Yeah.
being able
Yeah.
to add more stuff like that is exciting and cool, and is just good for everybody in the long run.
Yeah,
um
and at the same time, and I mentioned it, but I want to make sure I reiterate, like Dwarf Fortress, modding is going to be, continue to be accessible to people who want to change the name of a creature, or they want to copy the cat entry and paste it and add 10 different types of cats. Um, like that's still available. You don't have to go learn Lua to do that.
and like I mean that's the level of modding I can already do. I mean, there back in the ASCII era before everything needed a sprite, I absolutely had a couple custom creatures that I made because it was 3 lines of text. You just edit a couple values and press go, save. But with the existence of sprites, modding gets a little bit more complicated, but I think that like it's still
Yeah,
surprisingly
yeah.
accessible. I think just making it more accessible is the exciting change here for me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what kind of tools exist, if any, for people to kind of get yeah, the sprites attached for free and stuff, because it just has to be an entry in another file, which is kind of irritating, but that's just load order stuff. But
So
yes.
I do want to dive into some user questions here, because we've kind of cleared my topics. And the first one is, and most of the questions I've selected are stuff that we've more or less not covered yet, and at the same time are things that I saw asked multiple times. So there's things that a lot of people are interested in, and I try and pick the best worded ones. So this first one comes in from INFI, so Infini, and they say, is Tarn happy with the current implementation of the one-on-one simulation during off-map squad missions, such as raiding and raising a site? If not, what's the plan for improving that?
Yeah, so that was called the Army Arc, and has been, now cut into. It's going to be cut into little pieces. No, it's garbage. I don't like it at all. Um, I think there's a place for some of the duel stuff that happens there, like the historical duels that happen there. But the way that it takes the squads and the historical figures and has them fight like 1 on 10 in some nebulous sense, or 10 on 10 in some other sense, and just, they're just chopping through people. It turns into like it's like one of those Dynasty Warriors type games,
Hmm.
um, where they're just like just going like the heroes, like, and by heroes I mean historical figures, have like like an out of like their like the regular games, rules, like an outsized impact on the battlefield, and uh like the whole there's some abstract roles for positioning and stuff and tactics and stuff that I mean it's good that they exist, I guess. But our idea there, which still stands, was to break that, like do some spatial stuff to the extent we can. It kind of depends on how much of this fighting is going on in the world at a given time, to not overload the system or realize too many map areas and stuff. I mean, partially realized, like the mid-level maps and stuff that it would have to load or create to really understand what's going on. But just having it understand much better what's going on, for sure. That was going to be a whole, siege sized arc of development, when we conceived of it that way, and now it's still the same way. It's just when we do it is not yet decided.
Sure. It's just something that I've seen come up a lot, and like every single iteration and variant of two armies colliding in a different screen has been asked and written. So I thought that this would be like that would be an interesting topic alongside of the siege stuff because it is kind of sieging. It's just sieging far away
Yeah,
things.
no, I mean it would be cool if, like, when you go to read about, like, one of Hannibal's battles or something, where there's like the encirclement and the smashing with the cavalry and that kind of thing. That's how it should read, right? I mean, this
Hmm.
game has always been producing stories and reproducing Wikipedia paragraphs, basically. So, like, that would be cool. I mean, we want it to go into that level of detail, and then also when you're playing, as a fort squad or an adventurer in an army, to actually participate in that level of detail, would be cool, and to have it understand what's going on. But right now, yeah, it's just garbage.
So now I've got another one that's kind of sieges related, but it's kind of a more specific question. And it comes from Snab, and they say, is it difficult to find solutions for the siege updates without making it too easy or irritating? And how do you find a good balance and fun for players? And do you get a lot of ideas from old wars?
Yeah, I mean, that's just game design in a nutshell, I guess. I mean, you want people to be engaged, and you want them to be thinking about what they're doing. You want them to have multiple options, and you want them to, yeah, it has to be geared at some challenge level, but also that should be an option as well. It already is. It's just crap. But when we have more levers to pull, we can start working on our difficulty settings too. So yeah, for sure. I mean, it's that is something that we're thinking about. It's kind of the main thing we're thinking about with sieges. Just getting the balance right there. If that was the question, I feel like I'm forgotten a part or
It's
something.
mostly just how do you redesign sieges without making it irritating to the player?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like, yeah, it's part of what you think about it in advance, and then you play it and notice some more stuff, and then you let other people play it, and they notice some more stuff. But yeah, no, because it can be irritating. I like the example I mentioned with the teleporting people. That is something that is irritating if it's not something you can control. Like, if you imagine a legendary swords person that can teleport, they can just teleport next to each of your civilians, chop off their head, teleport back outside. If that power is completely unrestricted, then yeah, you're just going to lose the game, except for having your military as like a husk sitting outside on top of a stack of dead people down below, and that's bad. So yeah, but we want those kind of options to be available. So that's kind of the, yeah, and then it's like, yeah, think about mitigations, think about how to control that thing. Um, yeah, so that's kind of, yeah. You think of irritating things and then try to make them not irritating. Sometimes you just don't do the irritating thing.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
but you have to yeah, think about and understand. Yeah.
The next question comes in from General Akela. Now, this is again the sort of question that I know that we've talked about before, but as things change, they remain relevant in some cases. And their question is: from what I understand, wagons require 3x3 tiles to pass to your trade depot, but dragons, giant elephants, titans, and forgotten beasts do not and can fit through a 1x1 door. With the new Siege update, do you think size of larger creatures will increase since they have the ability to dig, if I understand correctly, and create their own 3x3 path into your fortress?
I don't think that's gonna happen for a couple reasons. One is that not all large creatures would wear digging well. Like if like a giant elephant comes on the map and then just starts making a burrow, it's just I mean it's funny as hell, but it's not where we're going.
Yeah.
Um and and then also there was like multi-tile creatures has been something of course we've been asked about and been thinking about this for God 15 years or something. I don't know where that stands now. We've had little prototypes and things. They're all very fiddly, and they're also just kind of trying to recreate a 3D modeled 3D game when you start to get down into the details of how much it wants to know about what they look like when they're running and all that kind of stuff, if they've got different parts and different tiles and that kind of thing. Um, and of course, the problem with just making a 3 by 3 creature is kind of in the kind of negative space of the question there is that if they can't dig and they can't just go where they choose, then they're super easy to kill
Hmm.
because you just make a little tunnel
I, I
and just shoot at them.
I think from my perspective, digging for an elephant doesn't make much sense, but smashing down a wooden wall does. So there's like a weird line with this where in some instances it's like would it make sense for creatures to have more building toppling effects even if like they're not necessarily bigger?
Oh yeah, no, that's yeah, that's a different question. Like in a game that's more about up like structures and less about digging, then it is you could make them 3 by 3 creatures and just have them break the
Mhm.
crap out of everything. Because our game is so 3D underground, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You would just be able to kill a giant elephant every time, but that doesn't mean that the giant elephant can't just destroy the crap out of everything on the surface, and that'll be fun.
Because I don't know if like enemy siegers show up and build camps and then a bunch of rampaging angry giant elephants show up because I'm playing in the Untamed Wilds in the middle of like the savannah or something, and then they just like knock all their buildings down, that would just be comedy. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it's yeah, no, we are breaking things. We are breaking things. That's part of the siege mentality.
if
Constructed walls no longer safe.
wait,
Um,
if
yeah,
could
everything's
the
not
goblins
safe.
show up and chop down all my trees in order to incite a war with the elves?
I don't know what happens there. I believe it would happen by default now, right? Because they just count. The elves just have a very merciless counting procedure. That might be something that we would if we've got them chopping down trees. I think we'd look at that before the first release because well, just hope we remember.
Okay, I feel like that would be very funny.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. No, they should hold the goblins responsible is what they should do. But yeah, well, what if the goblins are gone though, and all the trees are gone, and the elves come later? And then you're like, oh, the goblins did it. Doesn't that sound like a kid that didn't do their homework?
yeah, I don't know. I just the big thing I still just want to see is the like any kind of inner faction silliness that is more than just oh we don't like how we treat they don't like how we treat plants basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, well, that's a whole different batch of things mainly. Like
yeah.
we've felt more and more tension as we've gone in terms of just getting rid of the current kind of really silly trade agreement setup and actually setting up um, trade diplomacy, even in the nearer term with discrete events that are very you kind of big news for the fort. Like if you had to do a really big mandate um, for the person I don't mean mandate like it's a noble mandate. I just mean in that style. Like I have to produce 100 things, but then I get 100 things that I really want rather than, just a 20% discount on leather or something. That's much more fun to play with, especially if you have choices about how those agreements are made, how they unfold, how the timing is staggered and stuff. That would just be a nice thing that lays over the fort in ways that can be broken badly by all the other critters in the game as well that would add a lot, I think. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, been talking about that for a while, and it's just I don't know. Yeah, we're in the middle of it.
it's
Not
exciting.
that we're not in the middle of that. We're in the middle of the exciting Dwarf Fortress development process. Yes.
It's all
So
exciting.
yes.
Speaking of things that are exciting, another good question from Infini, and it was the only Legends mode related question, so I have to ask it as a fan of Legends. Legends mode would benefit greatly from adding more detailed info about historical figures' motivations, like why did they leave their home site, why they joined another religious group, what was the basis for some political decisions, like the war declarations. I suppose that this info could be somewhere, it just needs to be brought to the surface.
Sometimes sometimes that info is somewhere and needs to be brought to the surface. Like the war decisions, though they're not ultra compelling, sometimes there are, 10 things that go into them, and it could save and list those. So that's a thing. When it comes to like why did this person move to a site, um, sometimes it's because like their spouse was there or something, but sometimes it's like we need population diffusion in order to make the map more interesting or something. And so we would need to kind of make up a reason backwards to do that, or add more simulation of the pressures of overpopulation in a village and that kind of stuff, which is also like a whole thing that doesn't exist right now. Except as like you have gone over the 150 cap or whatever, please start a new one if you can. Um, and I think that, yeah, I think some of the cracks would, I mean, the cracks show anyway, but it's like I think some of the cracks would show a little bit more as regards caps, because the caps are all nonsense, right?
Mhm.
And that needs to be. I think the caps. I would prefer to have soft caps everywhere, but that would mean having a very violent world, way more so than it currently is, or just diseases. I guess disease and famine is always a fun way to make a soft cap. But yeah, I would see. I don't know if it would seem too artificial. Right now, it just seems completely artificial, but that's good sometimes because it just means okay, that's a thing, rather than like, oh, what a weird, yeah, universe that's always churning and murdering everybody. Um, but yeah, yeah. I guess the overarching sense I have is that a lot of stuff is very mechanical right now, and it's difficult to make it sound better in Legends mode without adding new simulation stuff. But we like adding new simulation stuff, but also everything we add to Legends mode, we really would like to also start having it happen in Fort mode. And um, well, there's room. I don't know. Maybe you all want to talk me into adding diseases. That's fine. Um,
As somebody
Seems
who once
depressing.
had piles of like forgotten beast dust that got frozen into snow and spread around the entire surface of a map that if you touched it, it made you spontaneously bleed to death. Um,
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know if I like that
yeah,
idea. I don't like diseases
yeah,
very
yeah,
much. They kind of suck.
yeah,
The occasional fever
yeah.
is
That's
fine,
like,
but like
well, it's
maybe
like if
seasonal
something like,
allergies.
I mean, the Black Death comes through in what Cole's a third or something, right? It's not everybody. Um, so that's like that would just be like a crappy thing that happened, but maybe it's too much. I don't know. It's like how does it affect when you've got 150 dwarves or something and 50 of them die? Sometimes that's like a siege can do that, or a dragon breathing the wrong direction, or a werebeast thing or something. But if it's just the game saying like, hey, it's time for you to all have pustules or whatever, then it's less earned, I guess, or something. Um, Also, dwarves. Well, I mean, we always have an out because dwarves are just like, I mean, they've got 19 Constitution points or whatever. So, yeah, no plague for you.
I've got a question here about adventure mode dialogue, which comes in from Valentino. And they say, in adventure mode, enemies sometimes shout lines that feel out of place. Like, I'll be stabbing a goblin repeatedly, and he blurts out, "This kangaroo tunic really makes the outfit." Do you have any plans to help characters read the room a bit in the future?
It's not like I don't notice those things too, and it would be nice, but it's like it's not the highest priority. But I do agree. It kind of sucks,
I love the
for sure.
slapstick nature of it. I think it's
But
hysterical.
yeah, it is a goofy game. And Yeah, there's way too many people denying their emotions too. It makes me wonder if that's just a bug or something when they're all like, this. I am not afraid, or I am not sad, I am not terrified. When they're like all that way, I think. They're doing their best, but I don't know. It's just there's just a lot to be done there.
I
Um,
I tend to read it as like an attempt at well, as it was sort of mentioned in chat here, an attempt to use flattery to make the stabbing stop, like just trying to save oneself by flattering their attacker.
yeah, yeah. In that case, though, like if that were the thing, obvious, I mean, like the best thing to do then is go change the lines a bit, um,
Give them more
to make
options
them,
or
yeah,
context
well,
sensitivity or
and
something.
make them sound more desperate.
Yeah.
So it's like it just doesn't come across now. It's very like, yeah, they're doing their pickup line in the bar thing
Hmm.
at the wrong time. But yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, it's not the end of the world for sure, and it hasn't been fixed yet. But yeah, yeah.
So I've got a question here from Crumpet Sounds. Then this is a more
Mm.
general questions that we're into now, which is projects always get away from me, and I very rarely will the final product be precisely what I envisioned at inception. How has Dwarf Fortress ended up being from what you first envisioned, and are you still working towards that initial view or leaning into where it's taking you?
I mean, it's not even the original thing, right? I mean, we kind of like the original thing is just part of the lore of the game, where it was going to be like an arcade game practically with a high score list, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that didn't happen. um, like where the adventure mode realizes the score by exploring the fortress left behind and just finding little diaries and stuff. We still don't have little diaries. We have those weird necromancer books. That's about it. But yeah, it's just not. It just wasn't at all what we thought it was going to go. Um, and we had like our ideas originally, like very originally, like back 2003 or whatever, for where that would go, um, is more like changing the roguelikeness so that you can have older fortresses that you revisit in the modern day and stuff. Like that's kind of where we had some ideas when it was a small game. Would be like, oh, you finished Dwarf Fortress in 3 months. Oh, but then we revisited it and added a new like layer on top where you're finding these things in the modern day and so forth. Um, yeah, it's like Indiana Jones killing Nazis and shit, that kind of thing.
I mean, never
Because
gets
there's
old.
always some there's always some old thing they're looking for, you know.
The next question I have comes in from an anonymous user, and they say, "Is there anything that you're especially excited about developing in Dwarf Fortress that nobody's asked about yet?"
Mostly not. I mean, there's been a lot of questions over the years and stuff. So really, it's more like the little things that I spring quickly before people get a chance to ask about them, like this dye stuff I'm doing now, right? I mean, someone might have asked about it, but it's basically happening and done before there's been much of a discussion, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that's that kind of thing for sure. There's little things like that. The bigger picture stuff, though, I'm just pretty open about the process, pretty open about the development stuff, and then people ask about it, right? So there's not a whole lot of that. Um, I mean, there might be something, um, but I would have to sit and think about it. But like magic boats, all that stuff we've been over, you know.
Hmm. I mean, for whatever it's worth, one of the next questions I have here is dies question mark, and it was also sent in by an anonymous user. So, what are we gonna get with dies? Are we gonna get new workshops? Is this gonna be new structures, or is it adding on to pre-existing features?
Oh, it's all pre-existing stuff. I mean, in a sense, because this is just one of those little things, right? We're like the dwarves, especially now that we're in the era where you can see all of their little garments and stuff. It's just having four colors in the base game is that's not a lot of colors. That's like CGA. I grew up in CGA and I didn't want my dwarves to be that way all the time, you know. But and I know there must be mods and things, like lots of them or something, like with colors and things. And so like I could envision a setup where yeah, I also went through and added, 70 more dies and just hit most of the colors in the color file. And then, well, that's a very colorful thing, right? So that's that, but it's it doesn't feel true to life in a way, and it's way too regimented. Like I always do this plant get this color, this plant get this color. Like no one's painting. There's no like palette, you know. So I wanted that, and so I approached this from the perspective of like how do we mix RGB colors, um, and and still end up with text paragraphs, which we require, and also realistic mixes, which is it turns out that's a very hard problem, like mixing RGB colors. But fortunately, it's a I wouldn't say solved problem, but it's a problem where people made a lot of progress recently, like in the last I don't know few years. And so there's some open source JavaScript stuff we found that does like really nice, like give me two RGB colors and I can give you a gradation of colors that mix properly, right? That mix like paint. So if you mix like uh, blue and brown, you can get a kind of dark greenish color, that kind of thing that doesn't show up if you try and do it like light. It just doesn't work. It's because it's not just subtractive, but there's this kind of there's all kinds of extra equations in there to take into account, like making it feel like chemicals, kind of that I didn't have to write, that I just had to use from this library.
Mm.
So now I've got the ability to mix any dyes and get a lot of different colors from the color list, even with just the existing dyes. And also there's a tinting kind of thing now where you can take like you have your red root dye and that just makes things red normally.
Hmm.
But if you have white silk, now you can get pink, dark pink by partial dyeing. But then you can take the pink cloth object and mix in like a blue dye with it if you wanted to bring it over to some kind of like I
So
don't
you
know
can like
mauve taupey
re-dye
thing.
stuff.
You can re-dye cloth, you can re-dye thread, and you can also mix dyes in the bag to get new colors.
Oh
And
my
then you just have
gosh.
bags, and it's called a dye mix. So you can get like a nice pine green. We found that because we just have the pre-existing dyes right now. We have the emerald dye and the midnight blue dye. You can make pine green with that, which is kind of a bluish green in the game. And then we can make some nice pine green things. But if you mix in some sliver dye, you can make a dark green with that. But you can also make the dark green directly from the emerald dye, I believe, with the sliver dye. And so you can I've been a lot of just doing interface, showing the nice colors, putting at the top of the workshop all of the things that you can currently do. But if you want to set up a job that's in the future for stuff you don't currently have, you can just pick the colors. And yeah, working with that, and then I've we found like, okay, that gets you a lot of stuff, but bright yellows and purples and stuff are still not accessible through mixing any of these colors. Like you can mix the red and the blue dye to get this kind of darkish colors, but you don't just get a really nice popping bright purple. And there's no white dye to kind of lighten things into pastels like that, unless you're doing it on the cave spider silk cloth, in which case you can tint it into like a half color, which gets you there. But it's like um, but so basically that's to say we're also going to add some new dies just to give you some more starting points. And so yeah, that's something where we're looking at not adding new stuff exactly, but just adding some more reactions on some existing leaves and fruit and things to give you some extra ones. uh if we really, we may add a plant or something. I mean, it's because you have to order up the artwork and all that kind of stuff. Also, we added dyeing leather. Leather was not dyeable previously, so that's done now. And that's all of the leather starts as brown, which is weird a bit. I thought it had different colors, but it's all brown. So that's a thing. I just don't have time to go through all the leather items in every creature and change the colors there. Um, but you can fully dye them. So if you used a red dye and you could dye the leather red, and that's I mean it's practically like painting it or something. But you could say, I mean, I don't know how realistic it is. You might have to bleach it first or something in real life, whatever. It's fine. But you can also tint it, so you can get I made a nice dark dark green cloak out of leather with out of brown leather with dimple dyes because it was midnight blue, and it just kind of deepened it into this really nice green, which yeah, it's cool. So that's fun, and
So I have a
uh,
question. Is that gonna get surfaced in adventure mode? Because holy hell, that would be cool for like a trading character.
so adventure mode is the colors are used, and all of the entities pre-calculate their mixes that are available to them. And they do some partial dying as well. Right now, of course, in adventure mode, you can't do anything.
Hmm.
So if you're talking about like a crafting character that dyes things themselves, we just haven't done that with any of the
Just
jobs.
like a
But
mortar and
that
pestle
is,
and just like go mash up plants in a
yeah,
bed.
well, that's what, well, you know, now when we're talking about the cabin release, that was kind of the thing that we were aiming at there. Like if we amp up the cabin stuff, it was going to be to make all of the dwarf workshops available in adventure mode. Um, that's what we want to do. We have been stalled, whatever, for years and years and years by saying like adventure mode needs to have more tools. It needs to be more granular. That's why we have helves and shit, right?
Hmm.
And napping. We're starting with napping and helves, and then it didn't go anywhere. So I think what we need to do is recalibrate what we're gonna do there. So first put it in parity with dwarf mode, then explore making things more granular in a kind of more thoughtful way than just saying like, hey, I want to make it super granular and then not doing anything, which isn't helping anybody. So I mean, it's just been such a slow process for me because I just don't have a lot of craft knowledge like that to make adventure more and more granular is like kind of one of the problems. But that's yeah. And I know like all of the Mordant fans out there want us to make alum from our alanites so we can have really true dyes, and maybe you want your oak galls, and maybe you want iron-based, iron pyrite, Mordant, copperas, heap leaching pits that sadden the dye to darker colors. So we wrote all that down. I don't know that we'll get to all that kind of stuff, but it's not that we don't know that dying is, you know, more complicated in real life, and
Hmm.
you know, respect to the heap leechers and saddeners.
That sounds incredible, and also is a lot more than I was expecting. I was expecting like two or three more new dies. So like my brain is melting a little bit, but I've got to a couple kind of closing questions here because I've taken an hour and 15 minutes of your time at this point. So I've got a couple fun ones to cool things off. One comes in from Carl, and they say, "Have you found your next guitar yet?"
So I got the so I got the guitar that I found in town here. I didn't get a flamenco guitar yet. That's still I Some people sent me some very nice emails about like, oh yeah, you know, go shopping here in Spain and stuff. And I was kind of overwhelmed and didn't reply to a lot of those or anything. But there's a lot of great information people have been sending me. But in terms of just having a guitar here in Norwich, I found a classical guitar that they were using at a school, and
Hmm.
it got damaged a little bit. Um, so the price was right, and but it's a full wood guitar, so it's the best guitar I've ever had. Um, in terms of its construction, and also it's fun to play. I like it a lot. And I think I still need to take one more step to find one that has a really just it's like like this one I played many years ago where I was just like, oh, I understand why people care about the action on the fretboard and stuff more now, because it was much easier to play. This is not that, but it's a good guitar. So that's where I'm at. I got a guitar here.
Neezer asks, "How much do you play Dwarf Fortress yourself? I mean, in the sense that do you just sit down with it and relax without thinking about the next update or the latest bug report?" And I will BRB.
Yeah, so utterly impossible for me to do that, it turns out. When I sit down and play Dwarf Fortress, immediately just start thinking about what what problems I'm seeing, what things I'd like to improve. Um, and it becomes hard to play. I think I did get into it a bit some months back and was able to just kind of enjoy hectically the first sort of 4 years of a fortress, and that was nice. And I don't think adventure mode is quite at the place where I will be able to do that, but I'm hoping to get it there. That's kind of one of the goals, is to make adventure mode playable for me. So it's yeah, not as much as I was hoping when I started the project, but it's been a joy to work on. So it all balances out in the end, and I think it may actually be something that I can play recreationally in some years, hopefully, but I am not sure anymore. It's so hard to not just stop the game where I'm at, save it, and be like, okay, I've got this save file that now exhibits this behavior I've been wanting or whatever, or this thing, this menu did something wrong and I need to change some numbers and get it to, calibrate right or whatever. It's a bit stressful, but yeah, it's imperfect, but that's okay. Because other people make games. So, I
It's
got
very
I
true.
got things I can do from time to time. Uh,
I've
yeah.
got a lighthearted question about Gorlaks from Maze, and they
Hmm.
say, lighthearted question, accepting non-serious answers. Why do baby Gorlaks look so different from adult Gorlaks?
I I think that the artists can live the dream and kind of draw the Gorlak as they see them. Is it the lack of tusks and things? I remember somewhat the picture that they're referring to.
I would say take
Uh
baby human and put like adult human next to baby human. Baby human look
but
pretty
yeah,
different than an adult human in real life.
that is true. And I yeah, I didn't like for a lot of these things we described the adult and let Neorice is good generally did all of the baby creatures. There may be a few exceptions but not many.
Soothers and all.
And yeah, the artist's judgment as to what baby is the baby. uh, I was trying to scroll here. Here we go. I've just been noodling around in this folder to open it. There it is. That is not a baby. Are the babies in a different file? That's a child. Is the
I'll
is
go
the
grab it from the wiki.
oh, because the child Gorlak looks exactly like the regular Gorlak, right? I remember the baby looks absolutely ridiculous though, because it's an
Yeah, it
emoji,
looks
isn't
like
it, in one of
it looks
these?
like a Mr. Potato Head. Here I found them. I'll chuck it to you on Discord.
Mr. Potato Head and his bucket of parts. Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah. So the almost a pacifier, right? But yeah, no, the mouth. I think it's something about the cheeks as they develop then, right? The cheeks have to kind of fold as the tusk grows. So it must be how the tusk goes in. They've got this big kind of jelly cheek mouth, right? And just big wobbly cheeks. But then as the tusk comes out, it stretches to the left and right to accommodate these tusks coming through, which would otherwise just puncture their poor little baby cheeks, right? So they get a big, wide mouth, and then the tusks start poking through. And I think that's the main difference. It's their development along those lines as the tusk is accommodated. That's what I think.
So I've got just a very small handful of questions left. Big Bang would like to know what your favorite cookie is.
Hmm. Well, I like it. Yeah, I mean, I like incredibly heaped on grotesque cookies if you just add a bunch of crap. But also I like snickerdoodles. I like white chocolate chips sometimes, even though that's too sweet sometimes. But yeah, I'd say a snickerdoodle is a good cookie, or just a fresh chocolate chip cookie is also very good.
Ooh.
Um, and Yeah, of course, now that I'm in this country, I don't remember if a cookie is a cookie still, or is a cookie a biscuit, or is a biscuit a cookie, and a crisp is a chip, is a chip is a crisp is something else. And
Brits in
um,
chat, please inform us.
yeah, I always forget stuff
What
like
is a
that.
cookie?
What is a cookie? Is a cookie exist here? Is it just a biscuit?
So I've got a slightly more serious question for the kind of tail end questions here, which is from Emily, and they say, "I want to make a game with the depth as deep as Dwarf Fortress one day. Do you have any tips or suggestions?"
You should get started on your game, because it'll take some time. Um, and you should make sure it's playable. Think of some version of the game, like I said, but like Dwarf Fortress has changed a lot from its original conception. But think of some version of the game that you can make playable as quickly as you can, and then write down some things that you want to have in the game and think about them, and then put one in the game, and then keep that list and think about how the next thing you're going to put in impacts the other thing, and then you'll have five more things in your list. And yeah, it's just make sure it's playable though, and then you could just keep rolling it, and then that's about it. I mean, I think people have um a hard time thinking, I guess, about kind of the simulation layers and stuff like that, the abstraction layers, which all in Dwarf Fortress grew over time, but also on the shoulders of the dead games, so like dead shoulders and piles of the games that came before them, where I didn't know what level of abstraction I should deal with. Like with Armok, I started way too nuts and bolts and hairs and things, and like whether or not people could walk on a hand and a foot, like who gives a shit, right? You could do it in that game, but it's dumb. I mean, it's funny, but it's ultimately not going to accomplish the mission. So I think that kind of thing is something that that was 15 years of experience up to that point, thinking of how to layer things and how to structure things. And so I think that is something that you're going to have to get somewhere. I just got it by banging my head against the wall for a long time. But as an adult, you can learn things without doing that, um, if you study. So I think that's something that you should think about as the architecture of the thing that you want to make, and what's important, and what different levels of understanding you'll need to have of the thing at different kind of abstraction levels and stuff. But yeah, no, it's not easy. Is is
It's a
is
process, right?
is Yeah, oh, it sure is. Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing where you have a little playable game and you're adding to it is part of the picture, and I think that's really important because the game's going to suck if you can't play it, and then you're like, 3 years later, your thing's suddenly playable, but it's garbage because you've been working on it for 3 years and don't know shit. Like you haven't been playing your game, so you don't see things. But like your game's going to sputter and die if you just keep adding things to it and you don't know how to add things, like at what level. And sometimes you have to have the kind of tolerance for a really shitty refactor that takes you like months, like with the Z levels, right? I think the Z levels are one of the good things we added to the game, and that was like 6 months of fucking adding comma Z all over the goddamn place. If I had thought of better ways to represent things earlier, then I would have avoided a lot of that. But sometimes you don't think, I mean, you don't think of everything, right? So no matter how good your thing is structured, sometimes you just have to rewrite a bunch of shit. Um, and so you have to have a tolerance for that kind of pain. Um, but that's general. Well, no, there's some big deep project specific stuff, and also some general programming stuff in that, I think. But I think the big deep projects do more of that kind of work. And also you have to be able to debug, like, you know, sit and work on a bug for 5 days or something, just logging and being miserable. Um, and knowing that on the other side, things will be okay.
I have to say a very big thank you for taking your time out of your day to hang out with me and folks in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat. Because a lot of people send in questions and I can't even get to a fraction of them without taking hours out of your day. So I always need to cap it off at some point, and I think that we've reached that that amount of time. So I do have one final thing to say, but first I just want to say thank you before I ask the last question. So thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
yeah, you're welcome. It's always fun to come on and talk. I just posted a little Bob Ross in the Twitch channel for the dies and stuff. So there you go.
Hopefully that
Um,
means we also get painting.
so this is something that yeah, no, that I've been talking. That I've been talking a bit, with people around about, like, I need to learn more about paint. And there's all kinds of paint, right? Because you go into like the portrait gallery around here, and they're like, this thing was made in like 1544 with like eggs or something, like some kind of eggy thing, which I don't know if it used actual eggs or not, but it was some,
I've got
it
too many
wasn't
eggs that are
oil.
half fertilized that aren't
Yeah.
finished that we could use for that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why I would like to, yeah, learn about, what exactly makes up an paints that it's all about like era appropriate in Dwarf Fortress. So I don't even know if like oils and acrylics and stuff. I'm not sure what's actually accessible. Um, but for these, there was lots of paint, of course, in the old days.
We got tons of
But
lead.
I'm
That
not.
doesn't seem to negatively affect the dwarves, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. People saying tempura, that's what I was trying to say. Not that I remembered it all. But yeah, yeah. So the stuff like that. So thinking about things like that, and then we've got various colors, and I have no idea if the dye colors have anything to do with that, or if the sources of colors are all different minerals and things. But let's not forget, also during this dye discussion, I've been, yeah, ceramic dye glazes have also come up again. People have asked for ceramic glazes for a long time that are not just the one that we have right now, and that's a thing. Also, ink. I have an email someone sent me years ago that just a lot of stuff about ink, and I've thought about ink a bit.
We have charcoal.
So
Charcoal can be used
yeah,
to draw.
yeah, well, yeah, no one can even draw, right? No one can. So I think the visual arts, aside from like sculpture, the visual arts have just been really ignored in Dwarf Fortress to this point, right? And yeah, any kind of sculpture thing like the statues, but also like engraved images or images on items. Like there's certain ways that images have come up in the game, but no one could just sit down and like draw like a happy dwarf being killed by an elephant.
Stickman,
And
stab,
yeah,
sad face.
yeah, and so there's like, and it's like our text. There's already some structure in the game for like that is unused for like illuminating texts, like monks and things. So there's that whole thing. Um, so yeah, so this is kind of yeah, just as we think about shiny things, that's kind of, yeah, it's come up.
A beautiful cacophony of shiny things. All right, so I've got one final question, and then I'm going to take us out here, which is a very personal and important question to my chat specifically. Me, not so much, but my chat very much so. Which is, which song by the hit platinum award-winning super talented rock and roll band Creed is your favorite and why?
Creed. Do I know a Creed song? I don't. Well, sometimes things are on the radio and you don't know who was playing them. So it might be that would I recognize a Creed song is a different question.
Maybe it's like the most 2000s dad rock.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't a dad in 2000, was I?
I listened to it in
But
high school, but
yeah,
not having heard of Creed is
yeah.
probably a blessing, actually.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I just don't know any of the songs at all. Like, I don't know that I have heard them. Maybe I wasn't listening to the radio back when they were playing them more on the radio. But they're not playing them on like the throwback 90s or zeros station?
Oh,
Like we've got
probably.
one here, and yeah, because we've got, is it 2000s or
It's like
90s?
right next to
Um,
Skillet and Breaking Benjamin and early
Nothing,
Nickelback.
nothing's ringing too many bells over here. But I was kind of out of everything in those exact years because that was my math time, and so I wasn't listening to any current stuff at all.
Well, I have
Uh,
to say this. We'll have to follow up with this very important subject when we chat next. So I just wanted to say
yeah,
thanks
no, I mean
once
it's like,
again for
yeah,
spending some
yeah.
time
Well,
with
I could
us.
start learning some. I could start learning some for like karaoke now, right? I could just maybe I could have an all Creed karaoke thing, and just sing the songs. Because the words pop up on the screen, and you just have to try your best. Even if you've never heard them before, you can
I,
give it a shot.
absolutely. Karaoke does make things simple that way. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
spending some time here, Tarn. And thanks, chat, for being behaved, except for the one bot that popped up in the YouTube chat. That was odd. And thanks, everybody who sent in questions. And we'll see you in 3 or 6 months or something.
yeah, yeah. Everything will be all right.
Everything will be all right.
Yeah.